We begin tonight from Borno State, where suspected members of the Boko Haram terrorist group have reportedly invaded Gudumbali, the headquarters of Guzamala local government area. A survivor of the Gudumbali attack told Channels Television that the terrorists invaded the town and took over the community at about 4 p.m. yesterday. When Channels Television contacted the spokesman of the defense headquarters, Brigadier General John Agim, he said he had no knowledge of the incident, just as his counterpart in the Operation Lafiadoli, Colonel Clement Wajuku, failed to pick calls from our correspondent in Borno State. The insurgents have carried out attacks on military formations around the northern Borno area in the last 1 month, the latest resulting in the killing of some soldiers in Zari village, also in Guzumala local government area. The residents of Guzumbali were first dislodged from 4 years ago, forcing them to flee to nearby towns, with some going as far as the capital, Maiduguri, to seek refuge. Only recently, about 2,000 persons were returned to their homes in Gudumbali after spending 4 years at the Bakassi IDP camp in Maiduguri. Meanwhile, the Nigerian army is set to clamp down on armed bandits terrorizing residents of Plateau State in north-central of Nigeria, particularly the killers of 3 soldiers working with the Special Task Force, Operation Safe Haven. The commander of Operation Safe Haven, Major General Augustine Agundu, describes the recent killings in the state in the past few days as precarious, as an act of lawlessness. He adds that the culprits will be dealt with decisively.
The situation on the plateau is becoming more precarious than expected. Since the unfortunate incident of June 2018, with all the efforts being made for greater understanding, for peaceful coexistence, the situation is rather getting out of hand. For the opting time, we are having a lot of crises, deliberate crises, well-planned, well-organized, against the innocent people, so that the peace on the plateau has been disrupted into a situation that is no longer acceptable. I have declared enough is enough. What happened in Barrack in Ladi will never repeat itself again. I've locked down Barrack in Ladi completely, and no human being is going to cause any further havoc in that local government. Whatever that is going on in Barrack in Ladi local government, Riom local government, Bassa local government, Bokos local government, that is enough. And that is the message I want to send through. My troops are resolved to bring the situation decisively under control from this moment henceforth.
And away from security concerns now, no fewer than 6 persons are feared dead and several others displaced in Dabi village in Ringim local government area of Jigawa State after their homes and farmlands were taken over by floods following a heavy downpour. Although Dabi village seems to be the worst hit, some other communities and 4 different local governments were also affected by the downpour. They are Burninkudu, Taura, Johun and Miga local government areas. In Dabi village, residents had to abandon their homes to seek shelter elsewhere as the flood came unbearable. Well, the village, which is known for rice and millet production, is now only accessible in a canoe.
We immediately asked the State Emergency Management Agency to send relief materials in the form of food and some canoes which they had in their stores. What I think happened was that they probably released water from the 2 dams upstream because they had filled to capacity. And all of a sudden, within 48 hours, the situation deteriorated to what you are seeing here. When we came for an inspection 2 days ago, it was just 3 or 4 villages affected. Now, virtually the whole local government is submerged, and it has also impacted on Taura local government, Miga local government, Jahun local government, and Burnunkul local government. And in fact, there has been a loss of lives. About 6 people have lost their lives in Ringin. We pray that Allah in His infinite mercy repose to their souls.
And staying with flood stories, thousands of Kogi state residents have been rendered homeless by flooding in the last few days. Also in Benin, the Edo State capital, flood victims are counting their losses as homes got filled with floodwaters, while thousands of acres of farmland in Pt.1 community in Kwara State have been submerged. According to the Kogi State Commissioner for Environment and Natural Resources, the water levels at the confluence point has risen 10 meters above normal.
In Kotokarfe, Ajaokuta, Ibaji, and some other areas of Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, north-central Nigeria, residents have been forced out of their homes by flood. Properties said to be worth millions of naira lie in ruins. Staff of the Kogi State Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources, fearing things might get worse, are here to educate the people on the dangers and convince them to move to the state IDP camp.
We have available vehicles that can convey them with their properties down to that place. So that's what we are actually trying to do.
The situation is already being compared to the magnitude of floods the country experienced in 2012.
We have 4,000 people so far in the areas, in the local governments that are affected.
Some residents believe, however, that some immediate practical steps could reduce the devastation.
What government should do for us is what they did in Old Market, that Kabawa area, the embankment there, is the one that pushed water here. So if they can help us around this area, you understand me, to do the same thing, sound feel it will help this area.
In the same region, thousands of acres of rice, maize, guinea corn and beans have also been destroyed by floodwaters in Patigi local government area of Kwara State. There isn't much hope of a harvest for the farmers as well as the fishermen.
If you look at the cost of loss that affect the people of communities in Patigi local government, let me say precisely we have over 100 communities that were being affected. And I can tell you we have rice farms, maize farms, and guinea corn farms.
Even they have had to take refuge in the IDP camp provided by the state government. The chiefs of the community deliberate on the matter and believe there's a simple solution.
One of the solutions, the most important solutions to this is to drain the river. You know, there was a time federal government insisted, wanted to do it, they stop at Baro. If the thing can be expanded and moved down to Jeba, that this seasonal flood will be controlled.
In Benin City, the Edo State capital, south-south Nigeria, the floods are no less devastating, and residents scramble to save what is left of their belongings. But the lawmaker representing Ego, Ikubaoha constituency, says it's the first time people in this area are experiencing floods of such magnitude.
Over the year, it hasn't happened like this, and this is the result of the problem that emanated from the construction of that federal road. They said because they needed to have more money, to complete the problem so that they can solve it, which I have done by God's grace to make sure that we put more money in the budget.
Residents in the three states are asking for federal government assistance and the introduction of dry season farming. In the interim, if the predictions of meteorologists are anything to go by, Nigerians could be facing even more floods as the rains continue.
All the aftermath of the warnings by some federal agencies are already staring many residents across the country in the face. But let's take a look at how prepared the National Emergency Management Agency is to play in playing its role as regards this very threatening situation. I'm now being joined live from our Abuja studios by the Director General of NEMA, Mustafa Mehaj. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10. Well, it does appear that Nigerians, especially those living in flood-prone areas, have not come to grips with the seriousness of these warnings from NEMA and other agencies. What are the dangers that lie ahead for people that are especially the coastal areas, those who live at the coastal areas, concerning this rising water levels?
Well, the danger issue is really dangerous. You could see across the nation where there are floods, people are displaced. They lost a lot of their belongings. That is how serious it is. But the current situation, as the NISA has just described, could be more devastating because all the indices available to us 2012 has manifested this time around. So part of our responsibility is to get all the nation, all those affected areas well aware and prepared, and all the agencies of government that are relevant to these activities are also prepared. We have been monitoring the situations and having reached this stage. On Friday, we call emergency meeting of all the stakeholders to review the situation and then assess the preparedness of all the agencies, which we have done. Having done that, we declared the situation as a red alert level, and then we quickly dispatched. We came up with 6 different groups of various members of the agencies to visit all the frontline states and assess their preparedness, assess the facilities on ground, and also identify locations where we could move possibly displaced people if it happened. Because
okay, but maybe you just bust in very quickly, just so that I'm able to get some questions across to you. My apologies. But give us a sense, give us an idea of the practical steps you're taking in conjunction with your counterparts in states, for instance, to tackle the disaster in the coming days if it does happen?
Well, all our personnel, the search and rescue personnel, are on on alert. All the facilities will be identified and having been identified will be made available if it happens. People are being cautioned to leave where they are, where we can convince them to leave, which is sometimes very, very impractical to move out people before it happens because they believe it's their ancestral homes, they cannot leave, which is social element of the difficulties we are having with the people along the affected areas. But however, what we can assure Nigerians is as far as relief material, which is a part of our mandate, together with the same as the state governments, we are all prepared to ensure that the minimum stock required when it happens are provided. You could observe we have limited, the response time has been reduced. Most of these incidences that happen, if it is beyond SEMA's capacity, you observe that NEMA is always there providing the immediate relief material required by the displaced people.
Well, the manifestations are very, very clear indeed. As a matter of fact, those driving to the office could see already the Kara Bridge almost bursting its bank from the Ogun axis. That's the situation that I saw just on my way to the office today. But I must thank you very much indeed, Mustafa Mehaja, the Director General of NEMA.